In Nigeria, you look outside your window on Christmas Day and you see that it's snowing. You probably should go back to sleep and pinch yourself because you're probably not in Nigeria because it doesn't snow there. And imagine if it did. This would be a mystery that would beg tons of questions, just like Stonehenge. And one thing we know is that of all the monuments in the world, or one thing I would like you to know is that of all the monuments in the world, Stonehenge is arguably the most mysterious of them all, just due to a number of factors. And for this speech, we're going to take a look at the answers that experts have tried to pose to these three major questions: how Stonehenge was created, why Stonehenge was created, and what significance it has to us in the world today. First, we try to examine Stonehenge from the works that archaeologists have put into it. And one thing we know about the human race is we like to make up stories. And we did this in class weeks ago before everything went to shit. We made up stories about creation. And I mean, human race from time hasn't been left out with this. And we see that in the book Stonehenge by Malone and Bernard, wherein they said, and I quote, that the legend that Arthur and his magician Merlin brought the great stones across the sea from Ireland. I'll have you know that Stonehenge, or the most massive stone that makes one of the most massive stones that make up Stonehenge, weighs 26 tons. That is tough to drag, and it's plausible. I mean, as far as the stories that we've created go, that magic would be the only possible thing that would drag it there. More to these stories, in the name, we see that Stonehenge actually means hanging stones, according to Malone and Bernard again, because people thought the stones were hanging from the uprights, which logically is impossible because something has to hold the uprights, which would actually be the stones that they say the uprights are holding. Also, they were able to mention how an author Camden expressed that he thought the giants had built stone circles like Stonehenge. Giants, again, stories. But now on to more substantiated claims about Stonehenge was created. We see that historians have been able to classify the creation of Stonehenge into three phases: Stonehenge 0, Stonehenge 1, 2, and 3. And Rodney Castleton was instrumental, Rodney Castleton did this in his book, The Making of Stonehenge. In his book, The Making of Stonehenge. Carolyn and Nancy also mentioned how the foundation of Stonehenge was, I quote, made with picks of deer antler and shovels made of shoulder bones of cattle. This is as far as the foundations go. And as far as how the stones were erected, Nancy and Malone also said for each stone, the workers would dig a huge hole with three straight sides and a fourth sloping one that was lined with wood. The wood lining may have been rubbed with animal fat in order to slide the immense stone in more easily. This was just physics in defying gravity and not having to stress too much about having the stones put in there. But one thing that does remain a mystery is how the stones were actually moved from wherever they were, which is estimated to be about 20 miles away, to where they currently are now, where they make up Stonehenge. Secondly, we examine why people would have gone through all this trouble of dragging such heavy stones to make things, and four things we that archaeologists have come to find out is that one, it could have been a it could have been due to farming. This is just postulation in general, but Francis Pryor in Stonehenge mentions that it could have been due to farming, and Carolyn and Nancy also do the same. There's also the idea that it could have been a burial site. I mean, look at the pyramids of Giza. It was a burial site for pharaohs, and Castle did mention that King Aurelius Ambrosius visited a grass-covered burial place where the remains were buried there for the fallen soldiers, and he was moved to tears and decided that some memorials to the patriotism should be built. And further into the future, there were also postulations that it was a crown in place for Danish kings. Castleton again mentioned that. And lastly, it could have been a ritual site. And Malone and Bernard say, and I said it, and I quote: Stonehenge is probably built for a combination of ritual, including seasonal festivals linked to the observation of the sun and possibly the moon. Lastly, in the world today, Stonehenge is representative of Britain's identity and culture. And as far as we are concerned in the world, it just poses that big question of mysteries in the world that we almost never get answers to. Unfortunate, in conclusion, this speech I hope was meant to be informative, but I also hope that it leaves you answering or asking questions about this mystery that is Stonehenge. Thank you.